Help support the show by going to the Amazon.com search bar on footballsamerica.com when doing your online shopping. There are no charges to you, just support, and it will take you right back to the Amazon website. This month, Football's America podcast listeners will get free shipping on any order over $35 when they go to footballsamerica.com/Amazon. Again, that's footballsamerica.com/Amazon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Football is America with Ron and Kyle. I'm Ron.
I am Kyle, and today we are joined by Alec Shane, assistant editor and jam master supreme for Pat's Pulpit, the Super Bowl winning Patriots SB Nation blog and team page. We have Alex here. I swear to God, you are such an Ron.
You can't even get through it.
I can't even get through it. No, we're going to keep going with this one. All right, Patriots fans, I'm a Colts fan. Let's get that out of the way. And I have to read these intros that my co-writer writes for me. He has NFL champion like every other damn word.
All right.
This is my life now. So you're already set up in a prime position. Let's just go ahead and dump on me the whole time because let's be honest, it's going to be really super funny. Alec, thank you for taking the time out of your championships lifestyle.
You are welcome. There's a lot of parades in Boston. It's got to schedule my time around those parades. So I'm glad you guys caught us in between. So it works out.
Yep. That happened.
It happened. It happened 4 times in the past couple of years, so it's all right.
All right. Before we get into the team and their championship season, Ron.
You're welcome.
You know, you just wait for the Packers, you son of a bitch. You just wait for those Packers. We'll see what happens then. Alec, let's get back to you before I fly myself out to Ron and strangle him with his own entrails. Let's talk about you. It's the first chance for a lot of the people from the fan page to get to know you. How long have you been a fan of the team?
I kind of came into the Patriots when Drew Bledsoe did in the early 90s. I'm 33, so maybe 91 or 92. Bledsoe and I kind of came up together, been following ever since. From Connecticut originally, and from Connecticut, we have UConn basketball, and that's kind of it. So you basically pick a city, New York or Boston, you stick to it. I picked Boston, which turned out to be a genius decision in retrospect for obvious reasons. I've been following them ever since. And then I got really, really into them probably in 99, 2000 or so. When we first got into college, went to college up in the Providence area where the Patriots games were broadcast live every week. So I got to actually watch them every week instead of watching them on ESPN highlights or the radio and whatnot. And luckily, it was a great time to really become religious about it because they've been pretty good ever since.
Definitely a fantastic time to get into it. Right around the time when Tom Brady gets under center. Yeah, it's a lot easier to kind of follow along when you've got an icon for the franchise to kind of be there right alongside your, developing fandom. Like you said, getting in with Drew Bledsoe, continuing on with Tom Brady. Now, what drove you to be a professional writer in this capacity? Was it just being a super fan and wanting to join the community, or was it something else?
Yeah, I mean, I've always kind of been like, I'm definitely one of those guys. If you see them at the sports bar, they're like sitting by themselves. They didn't bring anybody, and they're yelling at the TV, and everyone feels really sorry for them. Like, what's wrong with this guy? Like, get some hobbies. Like, I've definitely always been that guy when it comes to football, which was tough because the Patriots were not good for a very long time. So it was a lot of losing seasons before they got together. And I kind of just like ranted to my friends about it. My point of view was one that everyone seemed to enjoy. The kind of drunk guy in the stands meets legit sports analyst. And when Pat's Pulpit kind of put a post out for they're looking for writers, I kind of just sent off an email and an article on a whim, thinking there wouldn't be any kind of real follow-up. But the managing editor, Greg Knopping, got a hold of me, said he liked my stuff, and I kind of just started throwing stuff up there, and people responded to it pretty positively. And so I've kind of carved out a nice little niche for myself within the Patriots writing community. And what I like about the SB Nation blogs, the Pat's Pulpit blog, is that it's pretty devoid of just the idiot commenters who are just there to rile stuff up and to cause problems and to troll. It's mostly pretty smart fans saying pretty smart things to each other. And so it's really a nice community there, and it's something I really enjoy. I do it for free, but if people are reading it and I'm getting paid a little bit to do it, like, why not?
I will agree with you there. The community sense is a lot better in SB Nation. Routinely, every time the Patriots beat the snot out of the Colts, you get people coming over and actually talking nice about the Colts. It's all very condescending in its way, like, hey, you did great.
It's the worst.
You'll get it next time.
Yeah.
But nobody's like, haha, losers, eat a dick or anything like
Right.
that. There's none of that.
True. No, there's
not.
not.
A lot. I mean, you leave all that to Bleacher Report. I mean, something positive. Hey, this guy doesn't have cancer. 3 comments later, religious war.
Right. No, it's true. But honestly, in my opinion, there's nothing worse than like a good game comment on a loss. Like, if you really want to enjoy your victory, go off and celebrate with your fellow fans. Don't come to the opposing team's blog right away and talk about what a great game it was and how well everyone played and we'll see you in the playoffs or see you next year, because that's just the worst, in my personal opinion. Like, I hate when that happens. You hate being on the receiving end of that. I'd rather have like someone rubbing it in my face personally. But I guess at the end of the day, I'd rather somebody do that than come in and just, say something stupid, make a Spygate reference and go back to work.
Well, also with our personal experience on our show, all of our Patriots fans have been unusually articulate, like very, very aware of not just irrational thought, but grammar and punctuation. It's been really nice to see. So we've been really happy with that presence on our end, even though I have a slightly anti-Tom Brady, hate him a lot kind of bias. But that's what happens when we bring up Peyton Manning. He's bad.
I feel like Patriots fans, especially because I can't imagine there are many franchises across any sport as universally hated by both fans and media analysts alike as the Patriots are. So I think that the Patriots fans who've been there for a long time, who remember the bad old days, they weren't just from 2003 on. They remember how it was back when they were terrible. They know that everybody's looking for just the slightest reason to get under their skin and rile them up. And because of that, they approach any kind of discourse and sports analysis with a square head and legitimate things to say, because I mean, most people, they love nothing more than to tick off Patriots fans, and call them Belichick and the Cheatriots and 18-1. It's very easy to do. And we've been getting it for over a decade now. So at this point, it's all just kind of like, who cares? And let's just talk football. And you find the people that are easily riled up, get hot-headed, go away very quickly because they can't handle some bitter, Eagles fan saying they cheated. And so the people that are left are the ones that actually know what they're talking about, that know that the Patriots won because of things other than Spygate, that they won because they had superior talent, superior coaching, better understanding of the game. And so the wheat rises to the top, and it makes for a good football discourse for sure.
And one thing that I really loved about this last year, my favorite nickname was the Deflatriots. That was my favorite of the entire season. But there is no denying that for some reason, when a situation like this arises and it's with the Patriots, it seems to just be magnified. And a lot of that has to do with them winning. And it just seems to always kind of surround that team more than any other team. And we saw, like you said, with the Browns and the Falcons, like everybody was like, well, who cares? And like, well, if the Patriots had done it, everybody would care.
Absolutely. I think the thing, hating teams is really fun. It's a really enjoyable part of being a sports fan. You root for your teams and you hate somebody else. And it's the only thing more enjoyable than watching your team win is watching a team you hate lose. And the problem with that is your only real logic for hating a team is because they win and they beat your team all the time. However, that's kind of like a whiny, butthurt, taking my ball and go home kind of attitude you take towards sports fandom. So when something comes along that gives you this kind of mask of legitimacy to why you hate them, you take it and you beat it into the ground and you do not let go. It's like, I don't hate the Patriots because they're good. I hate them because they ruin the integrity of the game by cheating. That's why I hate them. Not because they beat me all the time. It's because they're disgusting, and Belichick is arrogant and he thinks the rules are above him, Meanwhile, I'll go watch this game populated by rapists and murderers and child beaters and drug dealers, have no problem with any of that. But God forbid you might have possibly taken a couple pounds of square pressure out of that ball. That's the most disgusting of it. That's the kind of attitude they have. And I get it. And it's fun. And you take it and you enjoy it. But I wish you just acknowledge people that hate the Patriots like, okay, I hate them because they're good. It's fun to talk about Deflategate. It's fun to talk about Spygate. And that way we can kind of all have it out in the open. We can keep it on the table, and you can just enjoy your fan hatred like a normal person. That's the way I see it.
If it helps, the only reason I hate the Patriots is because they routinely beat the absolute hell out of the Colts.
Of course, and that makes a lot of sense. Of course you should. I mean, the Colts. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. And the reason not.
Yeah, that's just rivalry.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Part of it is you want to legitimize your own fandom by slightly vilifying another team. I mean, we had a Texans guy on, and he was talking about hating the Colts, and I'm just going, I really don't hate the Texans.
Sure.
Because it's not the same level, but I understand the legitimacy of rivalry through that lens.
Yeah, I mean, especially from a Colts perspective. I mean, I don't think we'll ever, maybe I'll be wrong here, but I don't think we'll ever see anything quite like the Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Colts, Patriots rivalry. That was just an unbelievable rivalry to watch. It's kind of winding down now, obviously, but the Manning-led Colts and the Brady-led Patriots, that back and forth, that's just something I will probably never see again, which is too bad. And so I don't know really where Colts Pats lines up on the all-time rivalry list, but I think it's up there for sure.
It has to be up there. Lot of success between the two teams, ridiculous amount of playoff appearances, great rivalry, even better football, just a joy to watch.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, obviously as a Patriots fan, I am honor bound to hate Peyton Manning, but anybody who says he's not an all-timer is just insane. It's an absolute joy. I've seen him play live many times. I cherish every moment of it. When these two go to the Hall of Fame, I'll give Peyton Manning a standing ovation and not think twice about it. And we're both very blessed to have such all-time quarterbacks for our respective teams.
Well, that's great for you guys. I'm a Bears fan. So let's go ahead and...
You got Jay Cutler.
Let's move on to the 2014
season. He got to it before I could.
He did get to it before you could. That is correct, Kyle.
Yes.
See, normally at this point, what we do is we go through and I read about how the season went, and I form some crafty picture of the whole season in a short paragraph. But I'm not going to do that for you because we don't really have to do that when you're the Super Bowl champion. So we're not going to talk all the records and reviews because why would we? But we are going to ask you, before we talk about anything else and the personnel moves, the drafts and such, and what might be coming and all that, one thing I have to talk about is the Chiefs.
Sure.
And the reason is because it was a defining game last year. It turned the team completely around and lit basically a supernova up underneath the entire team's ass. And it made Kyle really happy to watch as well, because nothing made him happier than watching Tom Brady sit down on the bench, grab his Uggs, and cry. And also, let's not forget that during this show, this is probably going to be one of the few happy moments for Kyle anyway. So tell us how you felt in the weeks leading up to that game, when you were watching that game, how you felt during the game, and then as the game ended and the weeks progressed, how you saw the turnaround happen and what led to that amazing run all the way to the championship that wasn't for the Colts but for the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that game came week 4. The Patriots were 2-1 coming into that game. They lost their season opener against Miami, which hadn't happened since 2003 when they got blown out by Buffalo 31-0. And then week 2, they went and they beat Minnesota pretty handily, but it was Minnesota right after Adrian Peterson got busted for the child abuse. And Matt Castle wasn't really under center as comfortably as he could be with no running game. And then they barely beat Oakland in the home opener. Needed a last-minute Will Fork interception to take that game down. So there really wasn't a lot of confidence around this team, even when they were winning. There really wasn't much. They hadn't shown anybody anything just yet in the 2014 campaign that let anybody know they were the Patriots of old. And then KC was kind of a big test, Monday night game in Kansas City, very loud place to play, very tough place to win. The Chiefs looked up and down, but they were motivated, and the Chiefs just came out and they handled them. It wasn't even close. You can't knock the Kansas City hustle, but I mean, the Patriots, they just were completely outclassed every step of the way. To the point where Tom Brady sat down. I don't think they sat him down because it was already a blowout and the game was over. I think he was just not playing well, and they benched him. And the real problem came when Jimmy Garoppolo came in and looked good. He engineered a touchdown drive. He was moving the ball up and down the field ways that Tom Brady couldn't. Most of Tom Brady's passing yards came on I think it was an 87 or 67-yard touchdown to LaFell for his only real score. And so all of a sudden, the game's over. National television, Pats get blown out in week 4. They haven't looked good all season. And, you guys that were there, you saw the whole thing. The Pats were done. Dilfer is on record saying they're not good anymore. Everyone's telling Brady needs to get benched. Jimmy Garoppolo, time to start. Even the Patriots fans, they're always going to be those who think Brady's done. Every offseason, there's the Brady's window was closing, and it was just it was a rough time. However, we as fans know that this season is 16, 17 weeks long, and you never want to count them out. And they turned it around, and the Cincinnati game was just something else altogether. But in terms of that Kansas City game, it was an absolute low point. It was also kind of a high point because that's like, all right, this is what we have. Time to get after going forward.
Yeah, we were talking. Well, Kyle didn't make that one, but I happened to be interviewing the Kansas City Chiefs writer Seth Kaiser. We happened to be going over his season, and they had a really good start to the season, and then they trailed off at the end. So It was a tough deal for them. Injuries took their toll for them as well. One thing he did bring up, though, that I found particularly funny was that their team had beat both the Seahawks and the Patriots. Yeah. So he classified the Chiefs as the Super Bowl winner, the true Super Bowl winner. So, and we'll get to Tom Brady and kind of the things that I think about when I talk about his mechanics and what his abilities are left a little bit later. But just going into how Jimmy Garoppolo came in and did stuff that's better. It's just, to me, and I don't want to get too deep into it quite yet, but just to me, it just seems like some of his ability, or mostly the age, is catching up to him, and that, like we've seen with Peyton Manning not being able to get the ball to certain people, it kind of seems like Tom Brady's starting to jump on the same train car there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's 37 years old. He's not young anymore. The good news about him is he's never been a mobile quarterback. It's not like he's ever really relied on his wheels or his mobility to scramble. So, he's still very accurate. His deep ball isn't what it used to be, but age, he's not going to do it forever. He's got maybe, I'd say, 2 years left of elite play. But even with Peyton Manning, Peyton Manning at 50% is still better than most of the quarterbacks in the league. And Tom Brady's in that same class for sure. So his style of play and his quarterbacking ability, I think is very conducive to playing well. He relies on the short ball a lot, the intermediate game. I think Bill Belichick will be able to coach kind of around any failings he's starting to show with age. So I really see no reason why he can't at least play out his contract, which is through 2017, and then maybe decide from there.
And every year, like you said, somebody wants to be the person to report, hey, Tom Brady's done. The Patriots are done. And some of that might be, as we've discussed, just, you want to hate this team. I think a lot of it is also the kind of need for sports writers to get noticed and having a radical viewpoint. It doesn't have to be correct. It just has to be interesting enough to have people click on it. That's how Skip Bayless lives his life. Yeah. So I think that was one of the big deals with that Chiefs loss. I don't think it was quite as critical in hindsight because, as you had said, the Patriots were kind of at a slow start to the season. There wasn't an identity for the team yet. And the Chiefs were riding this wave of great emotion. Not only was the Kansas City Chiefs doing well, the Kansas City Royals were in their first World Series in 30 years? Yeah. And it's a home game on primetime, so everybody's flipping out. It's a tough stadium to play in. So, yeah, looking back on that, it was a bad loss, but there was a lot of circumstance involved. The true measure, like you said, that Bengals game, I remember watching that one specifically because everybody was predicting the doom and going, well, the Bengals are only giving up 11.8 points a game, you guys. Only 11.8. And watching that, you could tell even before the game, the Bengals looked scared. The Patriots looked really angry. Huge turning point. Crazy thing. And I think that really kind of speaks to the longevity that there is in Brady, in that even when he gets low, he finds a way to bring himself back up. I think you're totally right with at least hitting 2017. With the good health he has, I think it's entirely possible for him to play into his mid-40s.
Yeah, I agree, man. As much as I hate to say it, I don't think he'll finish his career as a Patriot. I really don't. He mentioned several times in interviews, he's got no other hobbies. He doesn't really fix boats or go fishing, or he golfs once in a while, but football is all he really wants to do with his life. And when you have that kind of mentality, your body doesn't want to play as long as your heart does. And so he'll probably want to play somewhere else. And the Patriots are known very well for letting go of guys when it's time to let go of them, regardless of who they are, what their star power is. So I really can foresee him finishing his career out in San Francisco, maybe somewhere, or getting a 2-year deal somewhere else. But he'll be around for a while longer. He's a super competitive guy. And as long as he's willing to throw it, people will be willing to root for him. And it's going to be a very sad day when he hangs him up.
Now, that's another thing that's talked about a whole lot, too, is the craftiness of Bill Belichick maximizing his return for people. And I really do see what you're saying, that we're going to end up with Tom Brady in some sort of Brett Favre situation where he's in those silver years, but there's still enough for him to be out there and play. And Brett Favre himself said, you go out and you play because you don't want the question, what if? I mean, Brett Favre obviously went out, didn't work out, but now he has that knowledge, whereas if he just hung up the jersey, he wouldn't know, and that's even worse. Now, do you actually think that it would be a situation where Tom Brady's contract is simply not renewed and he goes onward as a free agent, or do you think they would make any attempt in any way to trade him, or would that just be sacrilege?
Well, I guess it depends if Tom Brady goes the Brett Favre route and starts sending pictures of his junk around the internet. If that happens, there might be some problems. However, if that doesn't happen, historically, if you look at when the Patriots have let guys go, it's very rarely been a key guy goes in free agency and is allowed to find somewhere else for nothing. It's just true. Look at Logan Mankins. You look at Ty Law. You look at Randy Moss. Like they let guys. They sometimes they will try to get guys before they walk out to get some value out of them. So I don't know. That's a tough question to answer right now. I think that Brady is probably the one guy on the Patriots who's kind of above all of that. He's just, I just can't see them ever trading him. I just can't see it. Belichick and Brady, they're tied to each other in eternity. And I think he's the one guy that'll play his contract out and then get like a 1 or 2 year deal in San Francisco or something like that.
Now, there's also a lot of question about Bill Belichick. Definitely not in any danger of losing his job, even without the Super Bowl win. The team could have missed the playoffs and he'd still be safe for this year. But at the same time, there's going to be whispers that he's getting ready to hang it up, maybe within the next 5 years. A lot of it is tied to Tom Brady. A little tiny bit of it is tied to age and the fact that, why is he going to put himself through this when he's already accomplished so damn much? Do you think that there's any weight to the idea that when Tom Brady's done, Bill Belichick's done? Or do you think he's going to try and go out and be dominant without Brady to further cement the belief that he was the mastermind and that Tom Brady was incidental, or as incidental as a legendary quarterback can be?
Yeah. Again, Belichick, much like Brady, I mean, we've all seen the Bill Belichick interviews. I mean, he doesn't have much going on besides football. It's what he's grown up in a football house.
Scowling. He's got scowling.
He's good at scowling, and he likes to. I'd like to know if he's changed his boat yet to 6 rings instead of 5 rings, because he likes to boat around on his boat in Nantucket and fish. But you can't do that all season long, especially in the Northeast. So I just see him coaching kind of like Coughlin, just kind of a grumpy old man on the sideline, just making plays and calling things down.
But rubbed up a lot more in lotion, though.
Right. I've had some talks with guys about whether he'll roll out like a Bill Parcells kind of consultant role, whether he'll be in like the front office somewhere, personnel scout, something like that. But I don't think he can really cede that much control over management. So I think when he goes out, he'll kind of go out completely. But, I do see him going for the Patriots beyond Brady, maybe for a couple more years, make sure the ship's been righted, make sure Jimmy Garoppolo, if he's the next guy, or whoever the next quarterback is after Brady, is firmly under center. They're going to be okay. And then he'll kind of ride off into the sunset with his latest girlfriend, whoever that may be.
And then there's always the option to take the different roles, doing advisor stuff, stop being quite as involved as a coach, fall back on just being a GM or VP or any number of things that he'd be fantastic at. He definitely has options, and he is definitely a Hall of Fame coach with no question whatsoever.
No, I agree. Again, the only real question is, and I don't know the answers, the only real question is, will he be willing to accept a role in the NFL in any capacity where he does not have total autonomy? I think the thing that makes him so happy in New England is because Bob Kraft basically said, all right, Bill, I learned my lesson with Bill Parcells. I'm not going to meddle anymore. I'm no Jim Irsay. I'm not going to try and stick my finger everywhere and get drunk driving calls and tweet all my crap out to the world. You do your thing, and you have total control. And you're not going to have that in any kind of other role. So if he can kind of cede that control and be willing to just kind of step back and let other guys run the show while he gives his 2 cents, yes, absolutely. But if he doesn't want to do that, maybe he's better off just being retired and staying retired.
And one thing that I had on this, and I'm going to ask it even though Kyle doesn't want me to, because I'm kind of chatting with him back and forth, is do you think that, and I'm going to make this kind of a two-part question for you, if Tom Brady does end up retiring and Bill Belichick says, you know what, I'm going to continue on because this is where my home is, this is what I love, and I'm going to stay here, and he goes on and he wins another Super Bowl or two with a completely different QB, somebody no name because that's his style, and just takes an entire new generation of players to the Super Bowl. Does that diminish Tom Brady's accomplishments in any way, shape, or form? And the other part of that question is, does that make him not less, but does it make the argument more in Peyton Manning's favor for the Hall of Fame?
I mean, obviously, you think there's going to be people out there who are just reaching for any reason to discredit Tom Brady. And for those people who are just looking for those reasons, yes, they'll say, see, Belichick, he's a system QB. Brady is nothing without Belichick. Belichick did the whole thing. But you really got to look at the Brady's numbers and especially the way he played, how many times he audibles at the line, the way he's good at reading defenses. You know, Belichick doesn't do all that. Belichick's more a defensive guy. I think one of the reasons Belichick has been so successful is because of Tom Brady. And I don't really think that'll take him away at all. But again, it's also through my rose-colored glasses of Patriots fandom. But anybody who says that a coach who's tied to his quarterback and vice versa, I think needs to do a little more research into football history. But, you know, like regarding your second part of the question, does it make more of a Peyton Manning argument? I mean, I think the problem with Peyton Manning, and I'm kind of guessing here because I don't know him that well, obviously, but I feel like the way he likes his team is he likes the team built kind of specifically catered to his needs, where he's running the show. The offense is one that only he can run. The defense is structured to rush the passer a lot because they're throwing the ball around, building big leads. And when that doesn't happen, it causes a problem. And so the coaches are less involved in Peyton Manning's scheming than maybe Bill Belichick is. But I think it's kind of apples and oranges making that comparison, honestly.
Well, and I'm going to agree with you on both points. As a Colts fan, you know, you would think I'd be right up there trying to tarnish Tom Brady's legacy as often as possible. That's not true. I just want him to get hit by a bus. Way different. Way different. But the only way I could see Bill Belichick winning more and that tarnishing Tom Brady at all is if Tom Brady says, hey, I'm not done, I'm going somewhere else, and he plays just terribly, which he will not do. I mean, he'd have to play like Brandon Weeden or Johnny Manziel or Colt McCoy level of bad, you know. So basically he'd have to go to the Browns. That's what I'm saying. If that was the case, then yeah, maybe. And as far as the Peyton Manning thing, I'm going to throw one more against Peyton. Another problem he had is whereas Tom Brady would get into pressure moments and still be able to maintain that calm relaxation. I mean, yeah, he's an in-your-face, edgy kind of guy, but he isn't making people like terrified. We all saw the Broncos in the Super Bowl. Everybody's on edge. Center snaps the ball, goes for a safety. That's it. You know, we all write the game off then. And having watched Peyton for so many years, as soon as his legacy is on the line, that's when he starts getting really nervous. And as he said, the entire team is built around him and his needs. When he starts getting nervous, the other players get nervous. And then you just have this entire thing just crash down. It's just... Yeah. And Tom Brady doesn't have that issue, and he never really has. It's, you know, Peyton Manning's great and I love him and all that, but at the same time, he never took a pay cut.
No. And Manning was born to football royalty. You know, he's been a football family his entire, you know, Archie, his father, and his brother Eli, and he was a first round pick. Obviously, he's, you know, everyone knew he was going to be the guy somewhere. He's always been highly touted, always been an all-star, always been told he's great. And Brady was obviously not that. You know, he platooned at Michigan. He was a 6th round draft pick. He was overlooked by a lot of people. His draft stock was terrible. His combine was terrible. And so he kind of had that chip on his shoulder that never really went away versus where Peyton Manning kind of just maybe I'm guessing here, maybe he kind of thought he was owed a living a little bit out of football. And so when it came down to those high pressure games, those playoff games where he needed to put the team on his back and make something happen, he couldn't make it. He couldn't get it done. And you know, the playoff record speaks for itself. It really does.
Well, just slight extra bits of perspective on there to kind of dump more on Peyton. He insisted during practices that he didn't wear the red no tackle jersey. I mean, nobody tackled him, but that's kind of arrogant to be like, you know who I am, and we're bucking the rules for me. And then on top of that, during the Colts suck for luck season, they brought in Kerry Collins, which was hilariously ill-advised. But then you had players on the team griping and moaning that they wanted Curtis Painter, who is easily the worst quarterback in the history of time, to put on a Colts uniform. Maybe any uniform. It's hard to say. I mean, but there was this sense of entitlement among everybody. And that's why from one year to the next, 75% of the starters were gone, because as you said, everything had to be this guy's way. And it's becoming a very difficult thing for me to admit, but the further along I get in life and the further along I see Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning, it's becoming easier for me to accept the Tom Brady argument. I'm not all the way there yet because I can't, but I at least am willing to listen a little bit better now.
Yeah, I mean, people will always compare the 11 season with the Colts to the 08 season with the Patriots. We're making the Brady Manning argument, how the Pats went 11-5 with Matt Castle, and the Colts went 2-14, I believe, without Peyton Manning. But again, if the Patriots were better at building a team, I think the front office understands that no player, no matter how good he is better than the entire squad. And while the Patriots were built around Tom Brady, they were not built on top of him, and were thus able to win 11 games, even though their schedule was also ridiculously easy in 08. Don't forget that as well. AFC East was garbage. The NFC West was garbage. The AFC West was garbage. So making that comparison, I think it also just kind of shows that the Colts are getting better now. I think they've kind of rounded into form, but during the Peyton Manning years, I don't think they were the best at building a team as much as they were at building up their franchise guy.
I agree with that. Now, talking about building a team, you've got to see the respect owed to the Patriots. As you mentioned, the Colts are building their team to beat the Patriots 2 years in a row. Obviously, this past year, that did not work. It laughably did not work. It was, at a certain point, it became impressive, like, wow, that bad. Okay, all right. But then you also see Miami going out, spending all that money, getting in Ndamukong Suh. You see the Jets doing everything they can to get Darrelle Revis back. We'll get into, allegations and whatnot later. You've got Rex Ryan jumping from the Jets to the Bills, and then somehow he's able to say the Patriots aren't that impressive.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's definitely that idea that not only are the Patriots the top team, they're the team that everybody is scheming to beat now. And that's got to feel kind of good to see the sense of respect from an organizational level that other teams are acknowledging how dominant the Patriots are right now.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Belichick has so much real estate in so many coaches' heads. It's mind-boggling. That's not how you build a winner. You don't draft a quarterback when you need one. You don't build a team to beat somebody else. You build the best guys that you can use around your players' personal skill sets. But if you want to talk about the Colts first, I think the Colts they've done a very good job so far. I think Andre Johnson's a great signing. He's been one of those guys who's been wallowing for a very long time with no legitimate quarterback. I feel really bad for him. I always hate to see great receivers wasted on teams with crappy quarterbacks. You see it with Larry Fitzgerald. So I'm really glad to see Johnson getting a decent quarterback in Andre Luck. I think Frank Gore's a good signing. He's got some money, some gas left in the tank. I'm still curious of the defense. Colts defense is garbage, as evidenced by 42-20 and 45-7, the Patriots-Colts matchups. And I don't know what they've done to really address that, to stop the running game, to stop the short passing game, to stop Rob Gronkowski when he's healthy.
They got some guys in their 30s.
All right. That's something.
So
and
that's a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, so again, if you're always going to be chasing the dragon and chasing the ghosts, I don't think that's an effective way to take down the king. I think what you want to do is you want to draft effectively. You want to build up your talent in-house. You want to evaluate the guys you got and build a scheme that allows those players to be as successful as possible, rather than go out and sign these big money guys. I mean, Ndamukong Suh, all right, like that's one player. It's a ridiculously awful contract. Tannehill's still not that great a quarterback. You look at Rex again. The Jets, they have their secondary back, but they've got no quarterback. The Bills are going to be okay, but they have no quarterback either. So like you're I don't know. I feel like they're just kind of just grasping at straws right now, and they're ineffectively structuring their teams to go forward.
And when we're talking structuring all of the teams to go forward, we have a backfield now that is going to be vastly different than what we saw over the last couple of years. Shane Vereen gone, Stephen Ridley gone. You have LeGarrette Blount there. He's going to be suspended for, I think it's at least one game, correct?
Yeah, the first game of the season.
And then you have James White, who is still relatively unknown. Jonas Gray, who is still relatively unknown, who almost faded into complete obscurity last year. Where are they going? I mean, we have Ridley leaving to the Jets with his tattoo and his middle finger held high, whatever he's doing to the Patriots. And
great move.
I mean, it seemed like he had a bad injury, but he's still a good back. But for some reason, there just seemed to be some discontent there. Where are the Patriots going to game plan? Where are they going to seal up the running back position? Is this something where we're going to see just still a ton of committee? Is this something where we're going to see somebody kind of take a more feature role like James White or Jonas Gray? Is this something we're going to see them go after in the draft? I mean, how do you foresee them kind of taking that and rolling out with it?
Yeah, I mean, I just personally don't think the running back is that valuable position anymore. Some teams, I'm not going to mention who they are, but they might say give up a first-round draft pick to the Cleveland Browns for a running back who they think is the kind of going to be the guy, but then does not end up being the guy and gets released and goes to the Raiders. Hypothetically, something like that. Some teams tend to overvalue running backs should that situation ever unfold. I think the Patriots are more in the situation where they realize these guys are pretty expendable. They can bring guys in and they can game plan specifically around certain teams. And between Blount and James White and Tavares Cadet, who they brought over from New Orleans, who actually has a pretty underrated skill set. He's the kind of guy that really could excel. He got very limited snaps over in New Orleans, so he could kind of embrace that Shane Vereen role. So I really see them doing what they did last year, running it when they need to run it, and using the kind of short passing game with James White and Cadet as their running game. In other situations, like against the Ravens, they didn't run it all in the second half. They set a lot of short intermediate routes and made their gains that way. So I don't see the Patriots really ever committing to like the guy back there, their workhorse back. I think the workhorse back is kind of a thing of the past, kind of dated, and it's more a game plan specific kind of offense that allows you to run when you need to, but throw it as well.
Looking at the wide receiver talent, that's something that, despite everybody claiming there's nothing there, the job's still getting done and getting done well. Now, Danny Amendola and Julian Edelman are the only two guys even close to being a household name. And you could, if you wanted to, argue that the scheme is really the hero here, because you get guys who are relatively unknown and then they just turn into superstars in this offense. We're seeing Julian Edelman take up the role that Wes Welker had and do it just as well, if not better. It's pretty routine to see the Patriots in a 3rd and long and then just get a crazy great play out of Edelman where he'll break something for like 25 yards and just make everybody look foolish for not giving him the respect he deserves. But we have to look forward and say it's good, but not as good as it can be. We've also got guys on there, Brian Timms, Kevin Dorsey, Brandon Gibson, not entirely certain about them, which doesn't mean anything given the fact that Patriots turn anyone into gold, apparently. And I mean, is this who they're sticking with, though? Or is this going to be addressed in the draft? If it is going to be addressed in the draft, do you see them going after a receiver early or in the later rounds?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that's a given with the Patriots is that the receivers have to be devastatingly handsome, as evidenced by Julian Edelman and Danny Amendola. Just two solid-looking guys.
I was actually surprised you didn't have a beard.
Yeah. When you got Tom Brady throwing you the ball and Danny Amendola catching it, ladies everywhere are just swooning. That's just a great 1-2 right there. But in terms of the actual talent, I think it just speaks again to the Patriots' kind of developmental process. It's like they know there aren't very many Megatrons out there in the world. There just aren't that many elite kind of number one guys that are going to be able to go up there and just haul passes in. And so what they do is they create a system in which guys can excel. Having Tom Brady back there obviously helps tremendously. But I think you have to have a very certain kind of football intelligence to make it in the Patriots system. You know, for every Deion Branch or David Givens that works really well in New England, they go elsewhere and they have no success whatsoever. Versus guys like Chad Ochocinco and Joey Galloway and Doug Gabriel, who they bring in and can't quite catch on to the offensive schemes. So I think there's a certain kind of mentality that Belichick looks for as opposed to a certain kind of skill set. He's like, here's our system. There are more regular guys than there are studs, and so we're going to have the guys catching passes as the regular guys who understand the game, who understand this offense. And it takes some time. You didn't see it with Brandon LaFell till about week 6 or so. He had a breakout game against the Bills. But once the guys get onto that system and they figure it out, they're very, very productive. As to your second question going into the draft, I personally hope they don't because they have not had success historically drafting high. Edelman was a 7th-round draft pick. I think since basically, I think Deion Branch, David Givens are the last ones they drafted relatively high that have had success. You got Chad Jackson, you got Taylor Price, Aaron Dobson. Jury's still out on him. He was a 2nd-round pick a couple years ago. Josh Boyce. They haven't really had very much success drafting receivers high. But if they do want to go high, hopefully they go for one of the larger kind of deep threat guys. I like Devin Smith out of Ohio. He could be really good. Chris Conlon of Georgia, another option. So kind of that longer, rangier guy that can stretch the field. That's the one thing I'm missing from them for the past couple of years is that legit deep threat. But again, it's all about that system. The guys that work it. The guys that can't, they're shown the door.
Danny Amendola looks like Tim Tebow if he didn't have a neck.
Also from Patriot. They like good-looking guys on that team. What can I say?
And you're talking about the big guys who can stretch the field, who can go down there. I mean, you have Gronkowski. I mean,
right.
let's not gloss over the fact that he's there. He's hilarious. When he reads a book, I feel like I'm getting read to by my little brother, and he's reading Dr. Seuss to me, which is hilarious. Like, don't get me wrong. I watched when he read The Gronking to Remember on I think it was Jimmy Kimmel, and hilarious. Now, when you're talking about guys who are big who can go up and get the football, I mean, you have those guys. You have Tim Wright, big. He's a wide receiver convert to tight end. And he's a real tall, lanky guy who can catch the football. He has some work to do route running, blocking wise. But you also went out and got Scott Chandler, and that is kind of his MO. He is going to come in and kind of finally seal up what they've been looking for to replace the Aaron Hernandez kind of role. That is what he will be able to do. So there's not much need at tight end, and I don't foresee them really going high, like you said, for a big-time receiver. I think this is something where they might just wait around and see, who doesn't get picked up, who desperately needs a home, who can fill that kind of role.
Yeah, I agree. Again, and historically they haven't really drafted well early on. I have heard from some sources that they're bringing a lot of receivers in, a lot of college receivers in for workouts. That could just be classic Belichick kind of smokescreen, or there could be some weight behind it. Nobody ever knows how the Patriots draft. But I'd like to see them shy away from receiver shy away from receiver early, and maybe try to pick some gems up in the later rounds. But who knows? Nobody knows.
Now, another big icon of the Patriots, Vince Wilfork. One of the rare times in which a player is let go and he actually agrees with the team's decision. Definitely a great way to leave in that, he respects the fact that, he's getting a little older and he doesn't want less money, but the team shouldn't have to pay him. I thought that was great. I have always loved Vince Wilfork because he just looks like a fun guy. I want to know, how hard is it going to be for the Patriots to get somebody in to do what he does? I mean, how much is his loss going to be felt?
Yeah, I mean, you can't replace Vince Wilfork. He's a once-in-a-lifetime talent at nose tackle. You're not going to find the guy that has that kind of athleticism, has that kind of ability, that kind of football intelligence. If you're going to run a 3-4 is what the Patriots ran under Wilfork, so you can kind of eat up multiple blockers. You're just not going to be able to find something like that. And I think what the Patriots are going to do is shift to 4-3. They've got a pretty solid front four right now. They brought in Jabal Sheard, which I think is the underrated signing of the offseason. I think he's a great player with the Browns. Another guy gone from the Browns to have a career revival. Chandler Jones is coming into his own. He had a great season last year despite some injuries. Rob Ninkovich is another gem that the Patriots somehow found out of the scrap heap and has really had a career revival. And then the second-year man, Dominique Easley, is kind of a question mark right now coming off that injury. But you can't replace Wilfork with just one other nose tackle because you're not going to find somebody like him, especially not in this upcoming draft. There's not a very Wilfork-esque nose tackle that'll be available when the Pats pick at 32 unless they want to move up in the draft. So you're going to have to find some other ways to shift guys around, switch your personnel up, and use your linebacking core, which is probably one of the best in the league right now to kind of fill that gap. But he's a guy you're never gonna have again.
Yeah, we're talking linebackers, and you went out and got Jabal Sheard in an incredibly sneaky way.
Yeah.
Which is good for him because he wants to stay on the Browns, right? I mean, he couldn't. Not even Kurt Russell could escape from Cleveland fast enough. I mean, you got Rob Ninkovich there as well, and that's one of my favorite players to watch. I mean, that guy is on the field like 99% of the snaps, and it's incredible. So the linebacking core doesn't really seem as something that is really of a need, but just something that, like most of the cores they have on their team, just isn't defined. Like nobody really knows anybody, and the Patriots always seem to be just a no-name defense that puts everything together. I mean, the last time I can say, this Patriots defense has stars was like Mike Vrabel.
Yeah, probably like the 03 to 07 defense is pretty solid, but that's almost 10 years ago.
I mean, we've got that, and then we've also got cornerback positions that are diminishing. We watched both Browner and Revis leave, and the insanity surrounding what is the whole Woody Johnson, Robert Kraft pissing context, and who they're going to use to fix that spot now is going to be of relative interest to a lot of people. The talent there, is it on the roster to fix that? Are they going to go after someone in the draft? I mean, should somebody apologize for everything that's going on?
If I had to guess, a lot to take in right there. If I had to guess, just going backwards, I don't think Belichick is notorious for drafting cornerbacks. He cannot get enough cornerbacks. He's always going to have a lot on the roster. But right now,
he has 10 right now.
He loves hoarding cornerbacks. He loves it. And so if I had to guess right now, I'd say there is enough guys on the roster to start at the moment. It seems to me they're going back to which is kind of just stressful to think about, the Patriots of kind of 2013 or so, where they bend but don't break style. They play a lot of under zone. They're probably one of the best safeties in the league, and McCourty locked up long term. So they'll put McCourty as a cover one safety, play Pat Chung into the box, and use Alfonso Dennard, Kyle Arrington, and Super Bowl hero Malcolm Butler on the outsides, and kind of combined with some soft zone underman stuff, and then stiffen up in the red zone. That's kind of how I see it happening. But again, notoriously, he's got a bunch of draft picks, and he'll probably spend half of them on cornerbacks because that's what he does.
Well, and we saw one of the most amazing, just effective strategies of using the secondary, getting the number one corner to play the number two receiver and having a safety in the number two corner totally remove the number one receiver from the game, proved to be very effective and really a critical part to this defense. So is this something that you think they can continue utilizing going forward, or was that something that really relied on the talent of Darrelle Revis?
Yeah, I mean, I can't sit here right now and say that as of this evening, the Patriots are a better defense without Revis. He's a once in a lifetime talent, and he really allowed Belichick to dial up a lot of interesting defensive schemes because he knew that whoever Revis was on, wherever he was on the field, that part of the field was taken care of completely. And so without him there, he's going to have to get a little more creative in how he approaches dialing up defense packages to counter offenses. So I see them more shifting back to a 4-3 kind of base zone this year coming up that allows cornerbacks to get help from the safeties. Linebackers are being asked to do a little more, not cover so much as they are kind of just be aware of the middle of the field and rely more on the pass rush to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands before he's ready. I just don't see them having the same kind of defensive, mentality, for lack of better term, they had in 2014. I just don't see it.
And we have, just going back to the cornerback thing with Revis and Browner and Robert Kraft and Woody Johnson, I'm attempting to transition here into the talks about all the controversies that kind of surround the Patriots. And we brought it up just a little bit earlier. The tampering thing, it seems really childish. A lot of people don't understand it. People don't know why you can't sit in the press conference and say, I want this player to come to my team, even though he's not on your team yet, because that kind of gives an advantage over other teams to pitch their team. And people just don't seem to understand that. But you've also got all the other things that kind of went with the Patriots last year, which is you had Deflategate, or Ballghazi, as Kyle liked to call it. You have LeGarrette Blount implying that there was tampering as well when he was coming from, when he was stuck on the Steelers behind Le'Veon Bell and wasn't getting any work,
Right.
You have a lot of stuff coming from the fan community. What is exactly the total overall reaction from you and your peers and then also the fans?
Yeah, I think that the tampering thing is more just comical than anything else. I don't think anybody with any real football knowledge is thinking anything of it on either side. Of the two, I guess the Jets are more guilty than the Pats are because Revis was actually still on the team, on the Patriots, when Johnson talked about how he wants him, versus Kraft said, I wish we could have kept him, and that's what the Jets somehow classify as tampering. But, nobody really cares about that. I think it's just kind of just two rivals poking at each other, and as far as I know, it's pretty much put to bed. But again, with the NFL, who knows the way they do their business. But in terms of the greater picture, the controversy, I think it all kind of just goes back to just people enjoying hating the Patriots. Like they like to hate them. They love to legitimize reasons to hate them. And look, at the end of the day, if you look at Bill Belichick as a media personality, he's not someone that's easy to like. He's not. He's a brilliant football mind. He's a great coach. Nobody will ever argue otherwise. Even if you hate him with the heat of 1,000 suns, you will acknowledge that he's a great football mind. But he's just not a personable guy. He doesn't care about the media. He's not looking for friends or approval. And so he's prickly and standoffish and easy to dislike. And so it's very easy to see him kind of in this like underground layer, just like plotting and scheming ways to lie, cheat, and steal his way to another title, because that's all he wants to do. Because he's got kind of that aura that he gives off. But there's nothing the Patriots have done. This goes to include Spygate. Should Deflategate come to fruition and showing the Patriots have done something, there's really nothing the Patriots have done, to my knowledge, anyone's knowledge that's at least public, that's been just so terrible that it just warrants the amount of attention that this team gets. They're not doing anything horrible. None of their players on the roster have been accused of murder. None of their players are beating anybody up. None of their players are doing things that are so terrible. But since they're the Patriots, since they're always under a microscope because they're so good, and in a league and an era where the NFL is very specifically set up to prevent this exact kind of success from happening, the NFL is structured to avoid this kind of consistent run of the same team winning all the time. There has to be something going on, right? There has to be something besides Belichick's just smarter than everybody else. So they'll always be looking for something. And when something, even the smallest nugget of controversy comes up, they're going to jump all over it. And before you know it, you're on Rachel Maddow on a split screen with Bill Nye, the science guy, talking about how it's insane. But it's got to be really enjoyable if you hate the Patriots. It's got to just be so much fun to watch this stuff. And I'm almost jealous. But then I look at the 4 rings, and I'm not really jealous anymore.
I mean, you said on the roster. He was on the roster when they accused him of murder at first. So, I mean,
then they cut him, though. They cut him right away.
Well, yeah, okay. And that is true. That is true. And that's its own thing with let's leave that alone.
Understood.
I do got to bring up the one thing that does seem to be confusing is, as you said, people like to bring up all these irrelevant circumstantial things like Deflategate. All right, if you deflated the balls, that's bad, but that didn't affect the outcome of that game. So that doesn't matter. The one that does strike me as hilarious is the league has even come out and said that there were illegal formations due to the whole ineligible receiver thing used by the Patriots. After each of those AFC championship games, Dean Blandino, VP of officiating, said, hey, we reviewed the tape. There were a couple of illegal formations. Play should have been whistled dead, but it didn't happen. Refs didn't catch it. And nobody cares about that one. That's the one thing that's even semi-legitimate, and nobody is even noticing it, not even a little bit. And that's one the league has even said, and there's nothing. It's just one of those, it happens. As it should be. Okay, correcting a rule, that's fine. We've got that going on. But I find that to really kind of fit into what you're saying about people are just enjoying the hate, because when it's circumstantial, the hate can be a little bit more raw and real. But once it's defined and put into a very finite spectrum, as the formation thing was, nobody cares.
Yeah.
I mean, the league changed the rule. I don't think it's going to affect the Patriots. They only used it a few times, and it is not a key part of the offense. But that one just struck me as weird that nobody noticed that there were illegal formations there, that the league ruled on it, and that, I don't know. Are you guys getting anybody commenting on that? Or most people I don't think are even aware of it.
I think what it comes down to is, the NFL rule book is over 200 pages long. Now, I've glanced at it. I can't understand half the things in there. And I know football pretty well. And the language in a lot of these NFL rules are open to interpretation. And they're not cut and dry. And I think Bill Belichick's just better than everybody else in the league at manipulating those rules. So you're still more or less in that gray area of legality, but you can still do what you want to do. It's what good lawyers do. You want a lawyer who knows the law inside and out and can defend you or prosecute to the fullest extent, because they can understand the language, the way certain laws are written. And Belichick's the exact same way with this massive rule book. And every year he'll find a new way to do that, to legally manipulate the rules. Some coach will lose. The coach will complain. The rule will get changed. Wash, rinse, repeat. And that's kind of how it's going to work from now on. And that's fine with me. I have no problem with it.
Yeah, and this is – I also ref football games, and mostly just JV high school stuff, so it's nothing too crazy. So the rule book isn't 200 pages, but I mean, it's still hefty for just a high school game. And we're talking about, I think the total cap on rules is like right around 325 rules is what I dealt with last season. So it's just funny to me that they continuously don't define what is a catch. And at this point, I'm writing a little article about it, and it's got to be on purpose. It has to be, because you know what gets ratings? Controversy.
Yeah.
And if you define something and it becomes something that there is cut and dry, now there's no controversy surrounded it when something bad happens. So because they're like, oh, well, the rule is this: he didn't catch the football because it touched the ground. And I've come to Keil and I said, this would change it. This would fix it. And Kyle's like, but it wouldn't make a difference because the NFL is not going to change something that gains them money and page views and video clicks and all that kind of stuff.
Think about the Super Bowl, highest ratings of any Super Bowl by a lot at that. And okay, it was a great game. It was the best Super Bowl anybody's seen in a long time. But when you've got so much controversy going into the game, that's going to fuel the fire. And, as you said, Bill Belichick's really good about finding the ways to, I'm going to go a step further, not just interpret the rules and find the legal way to skirt them. He's also going to find the things to where you've got to be really on your game to catch him doing something wrong. And more often than not, he's going to get away with it because he looks as though he's doing the right thing. And it's few and far between that he actually breaks a rule. But, hey, he's doing something right. They got that whole South Park episode about him and all that.
Yeah. I mean, again, like, if you really want to sit here and talk about how, like, Bill Belichick is ruining the integrity of the game, and it's just so obnoxious, and how, like, I just don't buy that argument. I just think you're just mad because he put one over on you because he's a better coach than your head coach, and he's good at what he does. And, your coach will complain to the league, and then they'll change the rule the next year. And he's going to find a new one in 2015, and someone's going to complain about that one. It's not going to change anytime soon. It's just him being what he does. And I think it's awesome. I really respect it. And you're so right about just the controversy. I mean, I can't imagine how happy the NFL must have been when Deflategate broke, because that's obviously the deadest time between the AFC Championship and the Super Bowl. And it's all anybody can talk about. It was on every major news outlet. It was on TMZ. It was on all the talk shows. The NFL was the center of the media world because of a couple PSIs in the football. I mean, you can't ask for better press than that. And they probably could have squashed that right away. But why would they do that? Because that's not going to generate ratings. You're 100% right on that one.
Now, we're getting close to time, so I'm going to have to wrap us up here. Before we let you go and before we kind of turn everything over to you, give us your expectations for next year. There's a lot of things that we look forward to. Being the Super Bowl winner, you have to look at it and say, all right, well, if we don't get back to another Super Bowl, the season's a failure. Well, that's not necessarily true because everybody has turnover. Everybody has things they have to work on in certain position groups. When looking at the team, when your writers, your peers, and the other writers look at the team and the fans look at the team, how do they foresee next year going? What are the expectations? What are the realistic hopes? Not the, the Patriots will win a Super Bowl every year for the next 25 years. I don't want that guy drinking beer in Boston, screaming and yelling with his horrible accent. I want the guy that says, well, this is how it's laid out and this is how it will be.
Right. I mean, the NFL equivalent of a first world problem is as follows. I mean, when you are a Patriots fan, I mean, your season starts in January. It just does. And you're expected to make a deep playoff run. And I would never go so far as to call a non-championship season a failure. But, I mean, when you're always getting at least 10 wins, at least 11 wins every single season, they've been to 4 straight AFC Championship games, so it's very hard to sit here and say anything short of a repeat is a failed season. But, we're at that point where I feel like the AFC is not a very strong conference. I think it's the Pats, the Colts, the Ravens, the Broncos, maybe the Steelers as the 5 that can represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. So it's not a very, very top-heavy conference. So, and the AFC East has improved drastically. I'll definitely acknowledge that, but it's still a quarterback-run league, and we have the best quarterback in the AFC East, leaps and bounds. So, winning the AFC East, winning 12 games, getting back to the AFC title game at least, I think is a very reasonable expectation. I think the big problem that we foresee is the people that are flabbergasted that Bill Belichick let Darrelle Revis walk, that he restructured his defense, let Brandon Browner go, hasn't really made a big splash. And so basically all the Patriots can do in 2015 is as good as it did in 2014. They can't do any better. They can't win the Super Bowl. So it's either they win and they repeat, which is hard to do no matter who's on your roster, or you'll get the talking head saying, well, if they'd kept Revis, then they wouldn't be in this situation right now. So it's kind of a lose-lose. They either adequately meet expectations for this year by repeating again, which again is very hard, or there'll be plenty of outlets for people to say, well, if Belichick had only kept Revis, they wouldn't be in this situation. So that's what the idiots will say. As an educated fan, I'm going to say I'd love to see another 12-4 season. I can definitely see them going all the way. I think the Patriots at Indianapolis in 2015, I think will be a AFC Championship preview, and I think the winner of that game will host the other in late January.
I'd say that's a very reasonable viewpoint to take. I don't think that the Colts have as much of a home field advantage there as they really should, and I agree with you. It's going to be who holds the number 1 seed if it comes down to Colts Patriots. And that's a grand assumption too, because the Colts are going to need to really improve that defensive line to even come close to playing big boy thing. So we are definitely running up on time. Now is your chance to go ahead and cover whatever you think we didn't cover that needed to be covered, to rep yourself, the blog, anything you got. Now is your time.
Well, yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, guys. It's always a blast to talk Patriots. It's amazing how football is hands down the most popular sport in America, and the second most popular is the NFL offseason. Because I can talk football all day, every day. The Red Sox are doing great, but I don't even care because I'm here talking Pats in April, and it's badass.
Well, it's week 1.
I know.
And there's 160 million games a year. I think it's 162.
There's roughly 5 trillion, 28 billion games to play in every baseball season. It's week 1. Nobody cares if they're doing good.
Hey, listen, it was Sox Yank this weekend. That's a big weekend, no matter when it is. But regardless.
Okay. All right. That's all right. Anyway, I'll give you that one.
Getting back to it again. It's always good to talk football. One thing I guess I'll close with, besides, please check us out at patspulpit.com. Some really good writers on there, some really good knowledge. It's a really good community, the SB Nation community. It's not, if you're looking to have actual, legitimate football talk with fans from all over the place, it's a great place to be. But I will close with this. We're very spoiled as Patriots fans. We're witnessing probably the greatest run we'll ever see in the parity era and the salary cap era of the NFL. And I'd like to invite all my fellow Patriots fans who are maybe prone to overreact a little bit, who are prone to panic when things don't go their way immediately, to relax and enjoy these last few years of Tom Brady we have. He's definitely in the top 2, if not number 1, greatest of all time conversation next to Joe Montana. And we only have a few years left of him. And so let's all relax a little bit. Let's enjoy what we got. In my honest opinion, anything after this is all gravy now. He cemented his legacy. Pat's the best, one of the best of all time. He's one of the best of all time. And let's just kind of just take a moment and enjoy what we've got here and not let our mania kind of overtake what the sheer beauty of what Patriots football has been for the past couple of years. And the time's going to come not that long from now when Pats are 2-14, 4-12, wallowing away, and people are loving it. So let's take advantage of these last couple of years we got left and really ride it out strong.
Yeah, because as soon as that happens, you know that every single one of us is going to be coming out of the woodwork. Oh. And the first place I'm going to go is I'm going to find Alec Shane on wherever he is at that point, and I'm going to find his blog, and I'm going to be like, it's just going to be copy paste. I told you, copy paste, ha ha ha.
Yeah.
And that's just going to be the reaction of every fan out there, and that's just the nature of this amazing game that we love so much. So thanks, Alex, so much for coming on. We're going to let you go. Stay on with us a little bit afterwards. We're gonna wrap up. And for all you Patriots fans that are listening, we appreciate you doing so. For all of our fans that are listening who just decided to listen to us because you must not have anything better to do with your lives, whatever. We appreciate that as well. Go check out Alec Shane at patspulpit.com. He's a great writer, has a lot of really great work. His entire staff there, or his fellow staff, I should put, not your staff, but your fellow staff.
Not my staff yet.
Yes, not yet. There you go. They're a great group of people as well, so go check them out there. Hey, thank you so much, Alec. And
thank you, guys.
All right, we're going to get you back on here at some point, most likely right after the draft too, okay?
Sounds great. Looking forward to it.
All right, take care.
All right, once again, that was Alec Shane, assistant editor for Pat's Pulpit. Also, I have named him the Jam Master over there, so that's happening. You can all deal with that.
What does he jam and what does he master in jamming?
All of it. Duh.
Like everything?
What part of all of it is hard for you to comprehend?
That's a lot of stuff.
Well, yeah, and he masters the jamming of all of it.
Oh, well, that's
You know what? He's not
Impressive.
jamming. Pressure gauges. Not jamming on that.
That's true. I don't think that they are jamming that very well.
No, but that's okay. Hey, for all of you Patriots fans out there, I am going to cautiously invite you to check out our podcast. And I say cautiously because I am an asshole. And being a Colts fan, that means I say horrible things about Tom Brady pretty routinely. And by pretty routinely, I mean several times an episode. Now, it's all in good fun, and I respect him as a player and all that good, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But come on by, you're going to learn some new insults at the very least. And I know if you're from Boston, that's like gold right there for you guys. And normally to get gold, you have to catch a leprechaun if I am up to date on what TV tells me about Boston.
Is that where the leprechauns go?
Well, the ones in America anyway, but I don't even know if we have them anymore. All I know is that Sam Adams is good.
Wow, I didn't know that you could actually put that many stereotypes all in one sentence.
You didn't know that, really? That's light work for me. This is me being kind.
Well, all of you joining us to support Alec from Pat's Pulpit, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate that, or streaming in, as our other co-host that doesn't appear in these interviews would say. We, of course, love that you took the time to download and to listen. And make sure you check out our show, footballisamerica.com. You can share on your Facebook our show. You can share on Twitter. You can share it on Google+, Reddit. There's a whole bunch of sharing options there.
They know where they can share it.
Also go to our Facebook, facebook.com/footballisamerica podcast. Comment there. Tell us how good or bad we're doing. Tell Kyle how wrong he is, or, just threaten his life in general. That's always good too.
It's not exactly the first time it's happened or anything like that. So, whatever. Check us out on iTunes, on Pocket Cast, on Stitcher, pretty much anywhere you can go to download a podcast. You can find us there. Download, listen, regret the decision immensely, and then write a terrible review, very possibly with poor grammar and spelling.
Yeah, that's
generally the norm.
Yeah, that's the cool thing to do when you listen to our show. So, also don't forget you can get us on Twitter at FBIA Podcast, and also email us team TEAM at footballisamerica.
They know how to spell team.
Some people would be like, well, what kind of team is it?
Well, what do you mean? What kind of? It's the spelling of team.
I don't know. Maybe they didn't understand the words coming out of my mouth. Sometimes I talk
no.
slow.
That's not how it works. We don't understand the words coming out of their mouth because they're from Boston. And it's not an accent. It's just saying all the words wrong.
Oh, okay.
But what you're doing is just as offensive as all the things that I do. You're assuming that they don't know. They have public school everywhere, not just Boston.
All right, well, that's going to wrap us up, folks. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you get a chance to check out the show.
Check out our show because it's pretty much just more of the same, just us throwing insults at each other, talking football. It's actually not that different than what we had with Alec on. I had a great time. Alec, you're a son of a bitch who loves a different team, but I get you, and I would really like to have you on again. I had a great time. Hope you guys all check us out. And make sure your hate mail all comes to me.
All right. Take care, everybody.